Greetings, lords and ladies, and welcome to the Westeros Vibe, where the new century was dominated by purple. Before we start, I would like to remind you that links to every article or video covered this week can be found in the video description below. Also in the description you will find timestamps so that you can choose which stories you will want to view. We start off this week's episode, as well as the first one for 2016, with something which may represent spoiler material for some people, so beware. Here's the first photo of Bran Stark's grown-up return on Game of Thrones. Obviously, Isaac Hempstead Wright road through puberty has resulted in a lot of changes to his features. However, they are not the most interesting thing about this picture. Observe the horse beneath him and the lack of darkness, which may allude to two possible ways his time in the north will transpire. Either after training he will embark upon a journey back south in order to help the world, or this is merely part of a vision. Whatever the case, it is an intriguing picture to speculate over. Next up we have George R. R. Martin praises fantasy artists, refutes claims about his Winds of Winter progress. Along with some more Hugo talk, which you can read if you are interested on his Not a blog, he took the time to refute a claim that he hasn't written any new material for the Winds of Winter except for what he has read at conventions. This is of course false, and we will get into it in a later story too. Moving on to A Song of Ice and Fire novels among the most sought after in Australian prison. Either the prisoner just wants some violence and sex alongside the plot, or they just want to add depression to their current situation after reading A Storm of Swords and that particular chapter. In other news, spoilers! Watch out! Isaac Hempstead Wright discusses Bran's Inception E storyline in Season 6. In the article, Isaac describes the experience of him learning his storyline from Dan and Dave, aka sitting inside a cave and learning to use learning to become a green seer, of course. His final statement is really the meat of this whole article, and it is thus. Previously Bran's seen tiny glimpses of future or past, but never has he been very much in control in this situation. Now we're given looks into his very important events in the past, present and future of this world, and Bran is beginning to piece them all together, like a detective, almost as if he's watching the show. Equally, he's now discovering how crucial he could be in the Great War. It's quite Inception-y. Next up we have two Israeli actors reported to be appearing in Game of Thrones Season 6. There is some unconfirmed chatter that Anya Buchstein and Yusuf Joe Swede will be cast for Season 6 in two minor roles, speculated to be part of the Essos storyline. More information is sure to come, so keep watching those interwebs. Moving on to something which can be considered spoilery. Is the show really cutting Aegon, Young Griff? This article explains the Aegon storyline and questions if and where it will appear in the show. If they had stuck to the book, then he should have been one of the characters that Tyrion would have interacted with on the first part of his journey instead of Varys. For those who want to dig into what this character represents in the books, I suggest you read the full article, as it also speculates as to how and where he could still appear in the show. In other news, George discusses Winds of Winter on his blog called Not a Blog. In a lengthy post, George has laid out some heart-wrenching information about the forthcoming 6th book in the Song of Ice and Fire series. Most importantly, the book isn't finished yet. Even more depressing is that it's nowhere near finished, as he has hundreds of pages and dozens of chapters written. Hundreds usually implies that there are less than 1,000, however I will not say that this is the case. After all, 1,000 is made up of hundreds, 10 to be precise, so without further information, we cannot determine an approximate number. In any case, it is known that Winds of Winter will have around 1,500 plus pages, so in the case that the hundreds of pages means less than 1,000, we may have to expect a 2017, maybe even a 2018 release. Personally, I am a bit concerned that the main Game of Thrones show will end before we see the 6th book. However, this shouldn't surprise us considering George's writing style combined with interviews, conventions, and side projects, as well as the major rewrites that he mentions in the post. Afterwards, he starts recounting his writing deadlines for 2015 and how and why he wasn't able to live up to them. I'm not going to go over the explanation because it spreads over a few paragraphs, so if you are curious, link in the description to the post. Afterwards, he tackled the very prickly subject of whether book readers can watch Season 6 without being spoiled. The answer is, as one would expect with George, a mixed bag. There will be book spoilers, however we won't know what they are, as they will not be spelled out for us. Even so, even if someone realizes that something is a book spoiler, in the books, the lead-up, consequences, and even the event itself will differ, sometimes greatly. Lastly, he points to all the characters which the show has killed off, but are still alive in the books and will have further roles to play, some even surviving the series, and others dying in different ways. Then he points to characters which haven't been introduced yet in the show, despite the fact that they are viewpoint characters in the books. And as always, he goes back to the old question he likes to throw out there when talking about the show in concert with the books. How many children does Scarlett O'Hara have? Although I was personally disappointed and saddened by the news, I still hold out hope that George will find the inspiration and mental fortitude to sit down and write his ass off in such a way that he and his readers will be satisfied by the end result before the gap between Dance and Winds becomes larger than the one between Feast and Dance. Moving on to the lands of YouTube, more videos are to be discussed this week. Preston Jacobs has released his What You Are Missing video for Season 2, Episode 9, Blackwater. Emergency Awesome has put out a video discussing the new Bran Stark teaser, and another one about the delay of Winds of Winter. That is the news for the week ending on January 3rd. I hope you have enjoyed it. If you have, please like, share, comment and subscribe. And stay tuned. Goodbye everyone. Hopefully 2016 will be a great year for Game of Thrones.